So now that draft month is officially here, it's time to dive into all the different draft scenarios. And I think every single video I've made since the Jaguars locked up the #1 pick is we should trade back. It's like every video I'm seeing comments about that. And I think it's a really hot topic. So in this video, I really wanted to address what it would take for the Jaguars to move back and even decide if it's possible to move back from #1 and even potentially in the second round if there's any chance for the Jaguars to move up. Now, before I get into this, I do want to put a PSA out there. If there's anybody that is interested in getting into like Jaguars podcasting, like if you see me doing these videos and are really curious about how to get your own start on it, definitely let me know, because over on the Relevant app, we want to kind of have that as a place where people can start up podcasts. We can give you a spot per week essentially and run a 30-minute show. You can do everything straight from your phone. You can pair up with somebody else and kind of go over there and do it. So if anybody out there is interested in starting up a Jags podcast, they just don't know like how to start it up and they just don't know what the beginning processes are and really don't have all the necessary equipment, you guys can do it on the Relevant app. You guys can do it on the Jaguars Fanatics app, and all you need is your phone. You don't need any kind of fancy equipment. So if that's something that interests you guys, definitely hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, email me, do all that stuff. You guys can find all that information down below. If that's something that interests you, definitely let me know. Now, the Jaguars had the worst record in the 2021 season. So with having the worst record, they locked up the #1 overall pick. They locked up the first pick in every round. And through different trades, the Jaguars have accumulated the most draft picks in the draft, tying the Chiefs. So the Jaguars really do have a lot of draft capital. Now, a lot of people see that the Jaguars have the #1 pick, and in 2021, having the #1 pick was great. I mean, we weren't even discussing Trevor Lawrence. We were discussing what are we going to do at pick number 25. We were discussing in free agency what kind of players can we bring in to help out Trevor Lawrence, because we all knew with that #1 pick what was going to happen there. And it was a true blessing that the first time the Jaguars ever had the #1 pick, it came in a year where Trevor Lawrence, a generational quarterback, was coming out. However, this time around, the Jaguars have the #1 pick, and it's not a draft where there is either that elite quarterback prospect that a bunch of teams want, and it's also not that year where you have like a physical freak, kind of like you've had Myles Garrett's or Chase Young's, guys that are like, when it comes to non-quarterback prospects, they are the no doubt #1 overall picks. It's just not like that this year. And because of that, Jaguar fans are saying, okay, let's move back. And I think this was being talked about a lot more at the beginning, but now it's phasing out a little bit as reality is setting, and it doesn't really seem possible. Now, there is a possibility the Jaguars can move back. I mean, there's always a possibility. However, I think that the best situation for the Jaguars to move back is if teams feel like the Detroit Lions want to take a quarterback. And if so, then I think there's a better chance that a team like maybe the Panthers at #6 may want to move up to jump the Detroit Lions. Now, unfortunately, right now, like, because there's a rumor mill going around, you know what I mean? There's different things, and some rumors are true, some are false, but right now the narrative is coming out of the Lions camp that, hey, they want to trade back in a draft, or hey, they are really interested in like Aiden Hutchinson. And now that it seems like the Jaguars will be taking Aiden Hutchinson, they are more of the talks that, you know, they're probably going to get edge rushers such as like Kayvon Thibodeau. They've been kind of linked to that a lot lately. So maybe that's coming out and they're putting that out there, but maybe they're doing that in secrecy because they do want to get a quarterback and they don't want to have to move up, and they don't want any team to be suspicious of themselves taking a quarterback. Because while it is not a great year to like draft a quarterback, at the same time, I don't think Dan Campbell wants to be in a situation where they want to lose games next year to get a quarterback. You know, I mean, they don't want to be drafted in the top 5. They want to be later. So maybe they look at this situation and say, look, this is the only chance we really have to get the top quarterback on our board, and maybe they select somebody. Now, the thing that really stinks is that it's like a bad quarterback draft, but also, you know, it feels like this year there's like no A prospect quarterbacks, but there are B level quarterbacks. And the thing is, it's not like there's one B level quarterback. It seems like right now it's like a race between Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis as the quarterback 1. So I think if one of those guys were out of it, it would be much better if there was one quarterback prospect ahead of the rest, because then, you know, say you're the Panthers picking at 6. The Panthers might have 2 quarterbacks they want to draft at number 6 overall. And they're not going to be willing to really make a move until they freak out because one of these quarterbacks are taken. But, you know, they may not freak out until, oh, the Detroit Lions have selected Malik Willis. Okay, now we have Pickett. You know, the number 3 pick is on the board, and then they might start to get a little bit frantic. So that kind of works against the Jaguars a little bit. So really, like, the only really chance I see the Jaguars moving back is if they, you know, the teams think that Detroit is going to take a quarterback. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, there's no one worth the number 1 overall pick, so let's trade back. But if there's no one worth the number 1 overall pick, why would teams want to move up? You know what I mean? There's like, no one wants to give up a bunch of draft capital for Aiden Hutchinson. And, you know, it's just tough. It's tough because it's tough for me to really draw up ways for this. Now, and really with the number 1 overall pick, I think it's really, really simple. I think it's really simple here. I think the Jaguars are drafting Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's it. Because one thing I repeat on this channel every year, I sound like a broken record, but it is absolutely true, is look at where mock drafts go after the combine. Look where they go after the combine. And before the combine, we were looking at mock drafts. Oh, this guy has us taking Aiden Hutchinson. This one, Kayvon Thibodeau. And there were a bunch that were having the Jaguars getting Evan Neal. There were some that were Ike Ekwonu. You know, Evan Neal and Ike Ekwonu are both left tackles. But then the NFL combine happened, and it seems like every mock draft I've seen since the combine, it's been Aiden Hutchinson at number 1. And the thing is, NFL GMs talk to NFL GMs, you know, scouts talk to scouts, analysts talk to analysts, and they're all talking to each other. They're all these guys at one place. So they get a real feel for what teams are thinking that they want to do at those spots. And after the combine, it was like Aiden Hutchinson number 1, and all these teams are thinking that. Now, if the Jaguars were, I think, a little bit smarter, and if they really were interested in trading back, they would say, oh, we really want to trade back. We really want to trade back. Put out those feelers. So if teams are out there thinking, oh, Jacksonville is going to, you know, trade back easy, they're going to jump a team for a quarterback. But no, it's been Aiden Hutchinson, and that's pretty much it. That's what the Jaguars have been doing. So I don't know. I think it's Aiden Hutchinson at number 1. I just really do. And you know, we'll see once the draft plays out, but that's just really where I feel like the Jaguars are going to be heading there. So that's my opinion. Let me know. Now, the thing that's really interesting is what the Jaguars do in the second round at pick number 33 overall. Now, the Jaguars, as we know, and I think a lot of fans, everybody, and before I even made a draft preview video, I made a video about what to do at pick number 33, because that seems like the draft pick that, you know, we're all anticipating, because it feels like we have an idea at number 1, but it's like number 33, what's going to happen? And everyone thinks the Jaguars are going to take a wide receiver. And the truth of the matter is, the Jaguars, this offseason, the Jaguars fans, analysts, and most of all the front office, like the Jaguars were desperate for wide receiver help. They were desperate, and that's not an understatement. The Jaguars spent $72 million on Christian Kirk. They said we need to get a wide receiver and we need to get a top guy. We're going to pay Christian Kirk so no one else can go get him. And boom, that fills a big hole because the Jaguars were awful at wide receiver last year. Awful. And I think they got a pretty good wide receiver too. If they use Christian Kirk right, he can be a great asset. But the Jaguars still need that wide receiver one. They still need that wide receiver one. And in the draft at number 33 overall, that feels like where it's going to come. However, a lot of teams are desperate for wide receivers. A lot of teams, because a lot of teams are like the Jaguars. They want their quarterback to be great. And for the quarterback to be great, you need to get good weapons. And a lot of times receivers are the hardest thing to find, and teams get most desperate because a lot of times quarterbacks can really help on an offensive line because they can really dictate cover or dictate protection a lot. They can see different blitzes coming. They can read defenses and say, okay, we're going to get into this protection, and then the quarterback can help himself out that way. But it's really hard for quarterbacks to, make wide receivers run open, get wide receiver separations. There's times where quarterbacks can throw receivers open, but there's not often times where, they can't do that all the time. They need to have easy completions. They need to have wide receivers running good routes and guys to be able to make 50-50 balls. I mean, last year, remember all the times where Trevor Lawrence would throw a 50-50 ball. Maybe it's not the best throw, but make a catch, make a play. Anytime there was a true 50-50 ball, no one came down with it. I mean, no one dominated on the edge. You had Laquan Treadwell dropping a lot of passes. You had all kinds of guys. Just Marvin Jones made some good catches, but you had nobody on the outside that was getting separation or being able to dominate, get what we saw with Al Robinson, where Al Robinson was 70-30 balls. You had nobody doing that. The Jaguars need to bring in that guy for Trevor Lawrence. They added the speedy slot guy. Now we need to add the alpha outside guy, and it's going to come at pick number 33. But it's a little bit scary because in the few picks before us, I'll put the draft positions up here. The Jaguars had a number 33 overall pick. If you look at the situation, Kansas City has let's go back to Green Bay at number 28. Green Bay just traded away Devontae Adams. Kansas City has pick number 29 and 30. You get the feeling that after trading away Tyreek Hill, they're going to take a receiver with one of those picks. And then it kind of leaves you to Lions right before us. The Lions, they don't take a quarterback at that first pick. Maybe they take one at number 32 just because you get that fifth-year option. So maybe, they're a team that needs wide receiver too. But, if they want to take a quarterback, they're more likely to take the quarterback number 32. But still, if they don't take a quarterback, they need a wide receiver. So it's scary. And there's slated to be about 6 receivers going in the first round. And, the Jaguars, if they're going to trade up, they have 2 third-round picks. Maybe this is the place where you do it. And I don't know. It'd be great if the most ideal situation, if the Jaguars were to move up, it doesn't happen a lot, but if they were to give up on a player, like some trade candidates may be Kayvon Chaisson, especially with signing Arden Key and drafting Aiden Hutchinson number 1. I just don't know what to do with Kayvon Chaisson. Maybe, he was a first-round pick, so maybe a team, could have a good plan for him if they were to have drafted him. There's also Laviska Shenault, who's been rumored to be on the trade block. Even with the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe they work something out there where the Chiefs pick up Kayvon Chaisson, or the Chiefs pick up Laviska Shenault, maybe throw in a 4th or 5th round pick to kind of entice them. Maybe they do something like that. And I'd hate to say this guy, I hate to say this man, because it's going to drive a lot of people crazy, but maybe James Robinson. I mean, maybe they want to use him as trade bait because, look, James Robinson's on the last year of his deal, and, I'm not really wanting to give up on James Robinson. I'm not. He's been our best offensive player the last 2 years. However, if it's going to help me get a wide receiver 1, a Devontae Adams, or one of these guys, I'm giving up James Robinson. I'll be honest with you, but none of those are likely to happen. I think the most likely thing is that, look, the Jaguars have a pretty conservative GM in Trent Baalke who likes his draft picks. He doesn't really move up a lot. So I think the Jaguars might stay pat unless the Jaguars say, okay, we have 7 receivers we like at pick number 33. And then once the 5th receiver goes and the 6th receiver goes and they have one guy left, then they might be more enticed to trade up. But, you know, I think it would definitely be out of desperation. So those are some interesting things. And obviously the Jaguars have a lot more needs. They need offensive linemen. I mean, the crazy thing is the Jaguars signed 8 free agents to pretty significant money, and it still feels like we have a lot of holes. I mean, that's just the state of the Jaguars. If you look back, man, that 2020 draft class really set us back because we've been having to plug holes with, you know, different free agents because of that draft, how poor it was. So we'll see what happens. So those are some of my scenarios, man, about could the Jaguars move up, move back, primarily with pick number 1, and now there's been more discussion about pick number 33 about whether we should move up. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you so much for watching the video and sticking with this channel. I know I really appreciate it, and I love being able to bring you guys my opinions on different matters relating to the Jaguars. Thank you for making this an awesome platform for me. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching. Go Jags. You guys watched the whole video. Really appreciate that. You guys can subscribe to the channel for the best source of Jaguars news on the YouTube platform. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at UCF_Jaguar. And you can become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month for exclusive channel content. Thank you guys, and go Jags.